Hello. So I have been using Ubuntu 18.04 LTS for about 8 months. And 2 days ago, I decided to install Arch instead. Why? Well, I started to have some issues with Ubuntu because Ubuntu is moving towards snap packages. And on my computer, or my Ubuntu install, snap software actually load really slow. For example, the calculator was a snap app, and it took about 5-10 seconds for the calculator to start. Things like that. And people might have said, well, you have an old computer and mechanical drive and whatever. No, I don't. I have an Intel Core i5 6600K, and I overclocked it to 4 gigahertz. It doesn't show up here, but it is 4 gigahertz. And I GTX 660. This is the only kind of old thing I have. And everything is installed on an NVMe drive, M.2 NVMe. So no, I don't have a mechanical drive. The only mechanical drive I have is my storage drive, and I only use it for storage. But my Arch machine is installed on the NVMe drive. So even if I have the NVMe drive, the snap software just start very slow. Even I had the Notepad QQ, that was also a snap app, and that also took like 5-10 seconds to start. Spotify took like 20 seconds to start. Things like that. So no, I don't have an old computer. Even though I have an NVMe drive, the snap software is just loading really slow. But anyway, it took me, people say that Arch is hard to install. Well, it's not really hard to install. Yes, there's a bunch of commands you have to do, but you just type them. So that's not really hard. The hard part for me was to find commands that actually worked for my computer. Because most of the tutorials that I watched was installation in VirtualBox, and VirtualBox by default use BIOS and MBR drives. But I have a UEFI motherboard. I use UEFI and GPT, and the commands are different when you use UEFI. So yeah, this is actually the command list that I have. I don't have a separate desktop computer to have this up, so I had to print it out. So yeah, there's a bunch of commands setting some clock stuff, time stuff. And this part is the yeah, here you can see it's NVMe. My NVMe drive is called NVMe 0 and 1. So you have to yeah, GPT, and then you have, since I use UEFI, I have to create an extra partition, and it should be the first one for just EFI. And then I created a root, a swap. People say that you don't really need swap, but sometimes you actually do, because some software actually complain that you don't have a swap partition. And then I created a partition for the regular home stuff. And then, of course, you format all the drives. And then you install the Arch base system. And there's another couple of stuff that I encountered, some errors. Because when I logged into GNOME, the operating system language wasn't really set. It was, I can show you over here. It was on region language. It's over here. It was some weird Unicode stuff, and I couldn't open terminal when it was like this. Same thing, I couldn't change the format, and also the keyboard couldn't change that. So yeah, the only thing the Arch installation guide were telling was to generate the locale and add the language, but that didn't work properly. So you had to edit the gen file and add the languages as well, or uncomment them at least, and then generate the locale again. So yeah, it's a bit tricky, but otherwise things worked. Just I added a couple of extra stuff like the network manager, and same thing with my user account. I added myself to a couple other groups, and this wasn't in the guide either. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here that I have to modify. For example, yeah, here's the grub, the bootloader, and I have to add this extra boot manager since I use UEFI. And I also had to add this extra stuff. So things like that. And then of course the NVIDIA drivers. Since if you have a virtual box, you can't really install NVIDIA drivers. You need to install the virtual box drivers. And I had to add a bunch of extra stuff for that as well. But once you get these commands correct, you just need to type the commands. And it takes like 30 minutes or whatever to install everything. And installing applications, for example, yeah, all of this stuff. Normally you do that in software. That comes with GNOME. But yeah, I have a bunch of software, but they don't show up here because you don't use this with Arch. You actually use, I can show you the Arch, use package search. And for example, the arc theme that I have, arc theme should be here. Yeah, it's the arc-gtk-theme. Zoom in, this top one. But not all packages are here. For example, what was it? Let's see, it was the, yeah, AutoKey or Spotify. Spotify is here, so Spotify, if you search for it here, doesn't really show up. There's another stuff. So you need to have a different thing called AUR packages, which is like community stuff. So if you search Spotify over here, and then you zoom in here a little bit, and you click on votes, and top one shows up to the Spotify over here. And you actually install these packages differently. Like the regular on the Arch package thing, just sudo pacman-s and then the package name. With the AUR, for example, Spotify or AutoKey, I had to manually sort of install Yay, and you have to compile it yourself. But after Yay is installed, you just use Yay and then -s AutoKey, the package name. So yeah, everything works a bit different, but everything works just fine right now. I also documented all the errors that I got. For example, when I installed the Xorg, I couldn't, normally in the terminal, I can do this, for example. In terminal, you can't really press Control V, it doesn't do anything. So normally you have to right click and then paste. That can be a bit annoying sometimes, so I like to middle click on the scroll wheel. It doesn't work now for some reason again. That's annoying. So yeah, there are a couple of quirks here and there. But I document everything. So for example, all the software that I want, how to install every software that I want. Same thing where to put things. So for example, fonts. It should be in these folders. Example icons as well, the Yaru communitheme stuff. But yeah, it took me like 2 days to figure all the commands out, especially for the installation commands. But everything works just fine right now. And I can also say that Arch boot a lot faster than Ubuntu as well. It took me like 30-40 seconds to boot Ubuntu. It takes like 10-15 seconds to boot Arch. So yeah, it's a major difference. And that's another reason. And right now I'm just happy that I don't need to install Snap software or Snap packages, because that made my system really slow. So yeah, I'm going to use Arch for now. And Arch doesn't really have like versions. You can see here in the details, it says Arch Linux build rolling. So it continues to update itself, and it doesn't really have any version numbers like Ubuntu. Ubuntu have like 1804 or 1910 or 1904 and 1810 or whatever, and Arch doesn't have that. It just continues to update. And that's this is kind of a funny thing. On Ubuntu it says Ubuntu here and what version you are running. And then down here it says like GNOME, the GNOME version, but here's the opposite. GNOME is top here, and you have your Arch here. But yeah, I got it set up, so right now I can actually say, by the way, I use Arch.